Sigma Pi Phi fraternity was established in 1904 at Cornell University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's called the Black Boule. And it's different than the Black Greek fraternities and sororities because they take the cream of the crop. See, on college campuses, they're getting the people, the underclassmen, that haven't really come into any kind of level of understanding or expertise in their field. They haven't come into wealth. They don't have PhDs, right? These are basically high school students. That's how they filter out. And when they bring them in and indoctrinate them into the Black Greek secret societies, after they get them, they come up, then the Sigma Pi Phi, the Boule, they recruit out of the top that comes out of the underclassmen, as it were. And the people who come into here, these are the cats that already have PhDs and who have already come into a level of influence and wealth. So this is the elitist secret society of the secret societies. That's a key word, elitist. Now, we're going to Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, their website, because I always give documentation. I give pictures and documentation to prove a point. Who's this individual right here? He was Boule. Really think about what that means. Boule. And it says, I dare you, the imperative on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. I was going to say something else, but let me leave it at that. So I want... What's that? Yes, there are pictures too, but the idea is that you have to have enough corroborating evidence, right? And when you see enough of the hand signs, then you can kind of like infer, okay, now is it true? Do I have enough evidence to prove that he's involved with this? We have evidence to prove that Martin Luther King was in it because he was associated with a particular fraternity. Okay? So, and the point is that no matter what Greek fraternity you're in, you're still under the dominion of what? The Boule, Sigma Pi Phi. Here's one of the creators of Sigma Pi Phi, Henry McKee Minton, 1871 to 1946. He was the figurehead. And I want to read some of this from their website. At the dawn of the 20th century, black men of distinction had long functioned in various leadership posts, especially in the churches and benevolent association movement. Some, notably Frederick Douglass amongst them, had even served in high government posts, but by and large they lived lives separate from those of the black masses and the white professionals. In 1904, a small group in Philadelphia set out to create an organization that would provide a vehicle for men of standing, men of standing? Not everyday people, we're talking about men of standing and like taste, to come together to know the best of one another. What?
Even the wording sounds strange.
Don't it sound a little strange? Brothers, let me tell you, I ain't gonna never tell you, look, I want to get to know the best of you. I might say that to my wife, but I'm not gonna say that to no dude. Think about this. And I don't want to get ahead of myself. Henry McKee Minton was the leading figure in the discussion about organizing a group for such purposes. Henry Minton was born in Columbia, South Carolina on Christmas Day in 1871. He went to school at the Academy of Howard University and eventually Phillips Exeter Academy, from which he graduated in 1891. Minton studied law for a year and then went to pharmacy school at the Philadelphia College of Pharmacy, from which he graduated in 1895. Minton then received the MD degree from Jefferson Medical College in 1906. Minton also spent considerable time contemplating the isolation, this is very important, the isolation in which accomplished black men lived and worked. Feeling kind of lonely. He began to talk with other black professionals, and here's the list of those, about their shared conditions, about his ideas for forming an organization that would bring them together in fellowship. Minton thought that black learned and professional men should have an organization that should be a fraternity in the true sense of the word, one whose chief thought should not be to visit the sick and bury the dead, but to bind men of like qualities. What is that saying? That's saying we don't give a damn about poor people, black people. We don't care about the masses. We're taking an elitist orientation, and we're not worried about the sick, and we're not worried about those who are going to die. We're just here so we can bind men of like qualities. But to bind men of like qualities, tastes, and attainments into a close and sacred union that they might know the best of one another. Members would not be selected on the basis of brains alone, But in addition to congeniality, meaning that you get along, you do what they say, culture and good fellowship, that they shall have behind them at initiation a record of accomplishment. So even before you come in, you have to have already been accomplished. Not merely be men of promise and good education. His fraternity would contain the best of what? Skull and bones of Yale and of Phi Beta Kappa. Yes, sir.
This is from the website?
Yes, it's from their website. Y'all go to the website. After months of conversation with Jackson and some discussion with Edward C. Howard, MD, again, that's a medical doctor, and Richard J. Warwick, both physicians, the four men met together at Howard's home on May 15, 1904. The men agreed that they would meet again in 2 weeks and recruited 2 other physicians. These are doctors, okay? People who've already come into a level of affluence. And in the first constitution, the group proclaimed that, whereas it seems wise and good that men of ambition, refinement, and self-respect should seek the society of each other, both for the mutual benefit and to be an example of the higher type of manhood. A higher type of manhood.
That's in Black, right?
Yes, it's elitism. Be it resolved that a society be organized for the purpose of binding men of like qualities into a close, sacred, fraternal union, that they may know the best of one another, and that each in this life may to his full ability aid the other, and by concerted action bring about those things that seem best for all that cannot be accomplished by the individual alone, or by individual effort. Here's another. Sigma Pi Phi fraternity, also known as the Boule, is the first Greek letter fraternity to be founded by African American men. Significantly unlike the other African American Greek letter organizations, its members already have received college and professional degrees at the time of their induction. Yes, sir. The fraternity's insignia is the Sphinx, the Grecian Sphinx that we saw earlier. The founders' devotion to equality and mutual respect stemmed in large measure from the devotion of democratic traditions that they traced to ancient Greece and to the traditions of leadership that existed there amongst free men. Free men? What is he talking about, free men? Central to this idea was the Boule, the council of chiefs, or the leading noblemen of the society. Individual members of the Boule were known as archons. Thus, Sigma Phi Phi fraternity became the Boule, and the individual members were designated as archons as the fraternity evolved, and the spouses of members became an integral part of the organization. As a family group, it adopted the Greek term archosa to distinguish archon's wife. So they didn't even take the name archon. So this over here, Algernon Jackson, you can say Archon Algernon Jackson. The fraternity is based on the idea that it will elect only men of superior qualifications, and that all new members of the fraternity will be equal to all others. No one could apply for membership, and only individuals who all members of the fraternity had the opportunity to approve could be considered. So not anyone can go and sign up. It don't work that way. They pick you and they choose you. The process of setting apart new Boules or the election of new archons is meant to ensure that any member of Sigma Pi Phi fraternity who, for whatever reason, has to move from his home Boule to the region or jurisdiction of another member Boule can be assured that he will join with a group of archons who are the intellectual and social equals of the members of the Boule from which he had departed. From the beginning, the Boule participated in high-class quality control of its membership, and the archons jealously guard that right. High class? It's elitism. In 1929, after this, and this will be the last one we read here. In 1929, after the significantly trying meeting, the delegates of the Grand Boule turned their attention to ensure that all members understood and appreciated the meaning and importance of brotherhood. Writing in the Boule Journal, Grand Chapter Davis summarized what had happened at the meeting. Now the striking truth in connection with this forceful and memorable utterance is that it came in the most effective way. It grew out of a life situation. It was not a studied abstraction emanating from the minds of Boule philosophers. It was no finely spun theory, beautiful for contemplation, but impractical when it applied to the vexing problems that arise out of our relationship towards each other. It was not the result of an attempt of any kind away and apart from a real situation to define the merely idealistic principles. Now he just broke that to sound like it was all good. He ain't even said nothing yet. The utterance of the Grand Boule has all of the simplicity of a fundamental principle. It is earnest, straightforward, unequivocal. In so many words, it says this. Listen to this. First of all, every archon is a gentleman, or he has no business in the boule. He will therefore at all times and in all situations conduct himself as a gentleman. He cannot do less. He will realize, or at least assume, that every other archon along with himself is a gentleman, and therefore in all his social, business, political, and religious relations subscribes to and practices the same high principles to which he is committed. This assumption will therefore make it impossible. Listen to this. This assumption will therefore make it impossible for one archon unjustly and viciously to attack another one, even when he is in possession of facts sufficient to justify the attack.
They're just going to assume.
Yeah, so that means that even if you're in this secret society and someone in your fellow secret society member does you wrong and you have evidence of proof, you can't do nothing about it. That's emasculating, is it not? Because as a man, you say, look, no, I got to handle this, right? But you cannot. Why? As brothers in the same circle, it would be his business to present his findings to the boule and let them deal with the apostasy from the spirit of the fraternity. So you hand over your power to deal with it, you give it to the fraternity, and they deal with it for you. That's emasculating. Archons may and should differ. They will and should be subject to criticism in their public life by any other archon who disagrees with the program or procedures involved. But this has nothing to do with vicious personal attack that questions the honor and high standing of a fellow archon. This is outside of the pale of the fundamental elements of brotherhood. So basically it's saying, look, because we're brothers, even if I do you wrong, there's nothing that you can do about it. If anything, you have to take it to the boule, those who are above you, and they will deal with it for you. Okay, we're going to skip over this part. We're running up against the clock here. Archon, a higher magistrate in ancient Athens. Any ruler. Archon. So we can say Archon Henry McKee Minton, who established the boule. Archon, one of the 9 chief magistrates of ancient Athens. 9? That's interesting. Yes, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that one in the middle is the one that rules over them all. Archon, a higher magistrate in ancient Athens, any ruler. Ruler of what group of people?
The elite.
No, these archons, who do they rule over?
Masses.
The masses. But they are also the servant to what group of people? The ruling elite, the kings. We're going to go to Brother Steve Coakley, and he breaks it down.